Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. I've often been curious about the actor's life. I've often wondered what type of person chooses to pursue a life in the arts? How do they know? It's a life of constant introspection and inconsistency. But I think that an artist needs this walk on the razor's edge to be truly authentic to their craft. The person must have a lion's heart, an unwavering hope and an optimism, along with a child's playfulness. They must be fearless and sure of what they want, and they will do anything it takes to get there. For artists, not making it is never an option they will consider. For them, each footstep they take toward achieving their goal is considered a success. Their success is found in the small daily details of their pursuit and their journey. An artist and artists are curious about people, and they seek out their own perspective on the human experience with equal amounts of empathy and curiosity. And above all, they are brave. They are relentless in their pursuit, and they are incredibly driven. My special guest today is one such person. Meet him, and you see it immediately. He's got a bright light that shines from within. He's embraced his journey as an artist. He's good with its imperfections, and he's good at his craft. He works in the culinary arts, the music business, and as an actor. And he's getting a lot of attention right now as an actor, and there's a buzz in Hollywood around him. He's being described by casting agents as the new fresh face in Hollywood. Welcome, Nikita Privalov.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeremiah. It's really nice to be on your show. And, I'm really honored, and let's have some fun. This is going to be really fun. So once
We
again,
got to have some
having
fun.
me,
We
this is
just, yeah, thank you for, well, thanks for being here. And so soon after your birthday.
yeah, yeah, no, it was, I just
Did,
turned 7 and, it was a good day, and, what a wonderful way to celebrate, and so it's
yeah,
wonderful.
you were surrounded with good friends and people that you love.
Yeah, no, it was great. You forget how many people really do love and care for you, and then they all show up, and, you embrace with wonderful food, conversation, and memories. So yeah, it was a great time. So thank you. You know.
So did the party just end?
Everybody kind of left around, about 9:30. Everybody got a little tired. So, we hold the parties a little bit early because our neighbors are not necessarily, so keen on coexisting. So
Yeah.
so
Are
we have
you
to
the
kind of like, compromise to our, apartment living. But what
Yeah, yeah, you got to the walls are thin, right? I mean, those apartments, you got to be respectful of the neighbors, but I'm happy that you celebrated. Are you the type of person that celebrates a birthday just like on your birthday, or does it go all month long?
well, I'm the kind of person that likes to, celebrate it on the day. My birthday is November 3rd. And, on that day we get together, like I said. But even after, the day, maybe 2 days afterwards, there's still like, the reminiscence of the energy from the birthday. So
Yeah.
it dwindles off after 2 days. And I've noticed that. So like the third day, it's like, okay, back to work. But afterward, and then following the next day, it's like, okay, it's still my birthday,
It's
kind of.
still my birthday. Let's go to dinner. Come on, it's my birthday.
It's important to celebrate life, and it's important to celebrate your life because it's a good indication of, self-care and care
Hmm.
for yourself. I didn't necessarily celebrate my birthday that often when I was younger, and if I did, it always ended in like some sort of like, drama. But it's good to celebrate the birthday and actually kind of do it with, like I said, people that really care for you. So
I love you. Yeah. Well, Nikita, where were you born?
I was born in Nyack, New York, which is the lower Hudson Valley. It's about
Okay.
30 minutes, about 30 to 45 minutes north of Manhattan. It's along the Hudson River. So I was born in Nyack, New York. Yep.
Now, Privalov, is that Russian?
Yes, that is my family, my mother and my father. They came over from the Soviet Union in 1992. So they came over, they had my brother, and then 5 years later, they had me. So
And so this town that you were raised in, and you said it's a valley,
it's along the Hudson River.
Hudson River. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so it's about. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, describe it for me. Like what was your childhood like?
Well, let's just say that my childhood was interesting. It definitely wasn't like other people's childhoods, and it made me who I am today. But my childhood was kind of rough, to be honest with you. I grew up with a very very strict environment. I
Hmm.
was a gymnast. My brother was a tennis player, and we worked really hard. And my dad raised us, and my mother went out and she worked very hard, and that was kind of the dynamic that went on. So when I was a young boy, I grew up in the gymnastics gym, and you know eventually got too tall for gymnastics, and then went on to professional Russian folk dancing, and you know did that for years until I had an injury. And then I guess that was higher powers way of being like, you know what, Nikita, I don't think this is for you. So but that's kind of like how I grew up. I grew up in a very strict environment, and always kind of striving to let's just say you know be the best, people please, that kind of environment. So at the end of the day, it makes you you know kind of stronger in a sense, because you've kind of overcame that hurdle, and you kind of understand yourself a little more when you get a little older. But yeah, growing up it wasn't easy, but it is what it is, and I'm here now. So
Well,
I
like you
just wanted.
said, that's a great way to look at it. Whatever, you had to go through made you stronger and it is helping you today, hopefully. Things that you can borrow from and call upon strengths, inner strengths. Now, was your dad, did you say your mom went, she was the breadwinner, or she went out and worked, and your dad, did he train
Well,
you as a gymnast, or he
no, no,
raised you?
no. The dynamic was, my dad was, coaching my brother in tennis, and then I was at the gymnastics gym. So they were on the tennis court, I was in the gymnastics gym, and my mom on the weekends taught gymnastics, but during the week she worked in the office. So everybody was kind of, all over the place doing their own thing. So, and don't get
What
me wrong, I was on the tennis court as well. I learned how to play tennis, hitting the ball against the wall, and eventually, you do that enough and you get better. So, but that was the dynamic. I grew up in the gym. Brother was on the tennis court. Dad raised us. Dad was a stay-at-home dad. Mom went out and worked, and that was just what it was. So,
what did they want for you? Did they want you to become a world famous gymnast?
well, not necessarily. It was they just my father and my mother, they always believed in physical exercise and healthy living and stuff like that. And they grew up in an environment. They grew up in the Soviet Union, so when they came over, they brought their values and how they were raised, and they raised me, I guess, in the same kind of vibe, in the same kind of style as if they were raised. But I only know stories from what my mother and father told me. I wasn't there. So, but I was, I'm very grateful. When you get older, you start realizing things, and you say, yeah, it was hard, but there was some good times. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? There wasn't all just misery, but those moments make you stronger. And at the end of the day, you remember how you overcame that. So you kind of you just apply that to other situations. It's like I like to say, being comfortable in the uncomfortable. If you learn how to do that, you can overcome anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you learn how to do that, and if you get enough stuff piled on, you work it out. You know what I mean? It's not going to be easy, but you work it out
Yeah.
because that's the
Did
way.
your Yeah, that's a very healthy, great way to look at it. Um, Hard to do sometimes, but again, that's practice and discipline, right? It's
Not perfect. We can only try our best.
yeah. Did your parents have a heart? They moved here or immigrated here from Russia. What part of Russia?
Well, my dad was from Moscow, and then my mom
Okay.
was from a town just 30 minutes south. So, and
And was the main reason moving here to provide a better life for you and your brother, for their
absolutely,
kid?
absolutely, I'm very, very grateful that I was born in the United States because being born in Russia and being born in that kind of environment, my life would have been very different right now. I would not be on the Jeremiah show, talking about, my life and having this wonderful honor and wonderful, chance to, live in Los Angeles. And, my life would have been very different. I would have been, picking potatoes out and, out in the farm and, and my father would have, probably still be living with me and life would have been very different, and then living under, whose regime,
Mhm.
Putin, life would have been very different. So I think all the time, how grateful I am that my dad,
Yeah.
because life would have been completely different. Growing up in that kind of environment, from what I heard from my father and my mother, like it's not good. It's not good.
Are you curious about your heritage or proud of your heritage, your Russian heritage? Have you looked into it?
You
Is
know,
it
it's kind of
ever?
it's kind of hard to be proud of it at this moment. Of course, I'm proud of my Russian heritage. My mom and my dad and my ancestors are from Russia, but I'm not just too proud of the actions that are going on over there right now. So it's kind of hard to, you know, sit here and be like, oh yeah, I'm proud of my heritage. Yes, I'm proud of my heritage, but I'm not proud of what's going on over there right now. And that's where my family's from. There's a war going on, and there's not good things happening. So all we can do is just pray and hope that it comes to an end soon. So, but
I was thinking about you and your heritage, and I didn't know this background yet, right? So I was just kind of guessing, but I was thinking about you today, and I was thinking about from the beginning, from when I can remember, everything on television or movies or that was taught in the classrooms was to be scared of Russia or Russians, and I thought that there's so many great people too. That's such a blanketed um, fear that we're given as kids about Russia. And I know my parents were the same way. They would have drills. They had to get under their desk during the Cold War. Threat of nuclear war. And I thought, there's I was really excited to talk to you about this, and because I think there is the Russian culture and the Russian people probably have just
beautiful,
like every
beautiful people. It's just
yeah
just
yeah
what's going on right now is not so beautiful. So it's
right, that's government and that's probably out of their control, right? But I don't know, I just thought it'd be nice to talk to you a little bit about that heritage, if tell me what you knew about it, because I'd love to hear a
oh yeah.
different perspective.
I mean, listen, we're hardworking people. My mother and my father taught me to work hard, and work ethic and values and respect people and stuff like that, and and be the best version of yourself. And no matter how much you have or how much you don't have, you can still have a beautiful life. So, you know, it's the values and the things that my mother and my father taught me, and that's what I hold near and dear. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
hopefully, I can go. I've never been to Russia, never been, and I've been to Belarus. I met my grandmother for the first time there after 18 years of only
Oh wow.
voice on the phone. And this was before the war. We flew to Minsk and had a chance to meet her, and it was just beautiful. It was one of the best memories of my life. Was meeting my grandmother for the first time.
Oh, that's great.
So, you know, after all of this commotion and all of this horrible war is over, I'm definitely gonna go and, spend some time in Russia. I'm proud of my heritage. Like I said, it's just,
Hmm.
you know, things that are out of our control, and this too shall pass. And I just, you know, I always say a prayer for those who are affected by the war, and, for those who are affected by other wars right now, because there's a lot of not really good things happening around the world right now. So all we can do is just hang tight, say, and, keep our loved ones close, and, you know, and this too shall pass. I
Yeah.
believe so. So
Yeah. Well, if we could, let's move a little bit to cooking, but I have a feeling, I think if I know a little bit about you, that you were inspired to cook with your mother, right? She would cater. She had a catering
I
business.
mean, I she didn't have a catering business. My mom worked for, a caterer, and she worked
Okay.
a company that sent her out on events, and she would work as a waitress, and she did a lot of different things. She worked in the kitchen, she worked as a waitress, and she worked very hard. And I remember my mom showing me how to, when you're little, you have these little faint little memories. I remember my mom showing me how to make eggs on the stove, like this GE stove that we lived in these shitty apartments, excuse my language. We lived in these not so good apartments. And I remember just my mom showing me how to make eggs. And that's always just going to be near and dear to me. So, and then as I got older, she brought me along to her work and washing dishes and moving things and just helping along. And I just fell in love with it. The place
How
was
old were you at this time?
10, 11, something like that. Like it
Yeah.
had to be about 9, 10, 11. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but definitely not, like, by law, not necessarily legal to work, but nobody really cared. So,
Yeah, we won't turn you in.
yeah, and I was really willing to help and learn and be there. And, you
So,
know,
what did you love about washing dishes and prepping? And
I liked, you
what
know
did
what
you like about that?
I liked how everybody came together and did their piece in order to accomplish the goal, and that is to make a party happen, and that is to make people happy. Like, I just liked how everybody came together.
Hmm.
One had this responsibility, one had that responsibility, one had this responsibility. One would be chopping, one would be washing, one would be serving the customers. And it was a deli in the front, so I learned, customer service, and, how to clean the fishes as well. Obviously watching it first, and, nobody really gave me a knife until I was like, a little bit older. But I would, you know watch and observe, and they just liked having me around, and they called me back a lot. And, I was a little kid there, and the place doesn't exist anymore. And but, those are my first culinary memories, and I just enjoyed the camaraderie of the kitchen. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed over like, why are we doing this?
Hmm.
That, okay, why are we putting that there? Why are we doing, like, I just loved, like, the whole curiosity of, like, why.
The dance.
I just loved being in the
Yeah.
kitchen. I just loved watching and observing and finding out why. And, okay, this invoice and this party, why are we doing, different parties and different food? And this was my first kind of glimpse into catering, and I was like, holy moly, this is this is cool. We're making people happy by putting on events. And I remember making my first $100 tip. I was like really young, and I fell in love with the business more.
Could have been a million. It would have, with
I was
$100
that
bill,
young.
you feel
When
like a
you're that
millionaire.
young, when you're that young and you get your first $100 tip, you're like,
You're hooked.
you're like, wow, okay, like, I'm appreciated. Like, I did a great job.
Yeah.
It didn't come all the time, don't get me wrong. Like, that was really cool to get. And then you just keep doing it. And then I got older, and I remember in high school, early high school, just working at a catering hall, and, doing high volume catering. It was a big facility, and all of that I learned when I was younger kicked in when I was, you know working in high school, early high school, middle school kind of time. So what I'm trying to say is like all of that comes together, and before you know it, you get really good at it.
Did you have a plan
Um,
to go into the business, and was there a plan there, or did you just love it?
I'll tell you, like I said, I fell in love with it at a young age, you know, being in that early stage of, the seafood market that I started when I was like 10 years old. And excuse me, I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought. Could you repeat the question, Jeremiah? I'm so sorry.
Was there a plan
Oh
to
yeah.
make this a career, to make this a life,
Well,
or were you just doing it because you loved it at that time?
shit, things change. You get at first you do it because you're in love with it, and then you start realizing like, wow, okay, this is actually a profession. You can actually do this for a living. And started to make plans, and I said to myself, hey, I honestly I remember having this thought, no joke. I was like, if I learn how to cook, I'll always have a job and I'll never be broke because people always have to eat. So it was like the love, and then I got a little older and I was like, it's a great profession because you'll always be employed, and
Good plan.
yeah, and you'll always have like, and you'll always, and I remember like my mom telling me, oh, well, if you cook dinner for somebody, it's just the best thing you can do for somebody. You know what I mean? So it was just the trifecta. It was, you know, making people happy, job security, and love. So, you know what I mean? It was like three different, factors that played into, okay, I'm going to really, put a lot of effort into this chefing business.
I
And
love how you describe your love for the kitchen and how it's so exciting. At 10, 11 years old, I can't imagine that how exciting it would be, because the kitchen is an exciting place. I mean, it's
yeah, I mean,
fast moving, it's intense, it's hot, it's people screaming at each other, and you're watching that clock and trying to get that food out to the guests, and all that stuff. You got a lot of egos in the kitchen. I mean, the chef is typically, it's changed a lot, I think, in the years since I worked in the kitchen, but it's that chef has a lot of ego, and then there's a lot of hierarchy, right? There's this unspoken hierarchy where, I mean, they call it a brigade system for a reason. And when if you're new, you get harassed, and you get what's the word, hazed. You go through a lot of that, and I know a lot of cooks that have come up through the lines, and then the cook above them just won't. They screw them up. They mess up their plates. They mess up their ingredients. They won't let them get past the next stage. Right there's just that crazy competitiveness that's in the kitchens, and it's all of these things at once that make it so exciting and so fun to be a part of. But it's like a war zone. Have you experienced that at all?
it's funny you mentioned that. Obviously in the first kitchen, I was brought in because I was, my mom worked there and I was the son. It was, and I was very interested and very grateful to have that kind of, first start. But when you get older, and you start, you find your own jobs, and I remember I had like three jobs at once, and I loved it. I loved like bouncing around and not getting any sleep and just making like, I used to joke like I'm making all this money, but I don't have time to spend it. Ha 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 ha. Because I don't, because I literally lived in the restaurants. So it was it was man, I have so many stories.
None that you could probably tell, though.
Man, I have so many. No, I have some. You get older, and you work in these environments, and kitchens are very, like you said, they're fast paced, they're hot, they're greasy, and a lot of fast moving details.
Knives, and yeah, they're
Yeah, I mean,
dangerous.
and a lot of different personalities. So like when you are the new guy in a kitchen environment, so to speak, you you feel it, like literally. Like I remember being the new guy in the kitchen, like, and just you know people throwing toothpicks in my food, and my mash and my ovens being turned down, and like the hierarchy, my recipe books being like just taken mysteriously. And what you said is reality, and
Yeah.
you have to go through that, and that is where you decide, okay, am I just gonna quit, or am I gonna find a way to overcome this and get through it? So it wasn't easy. Let's just say that, you know what I mean? A lot of personalities, a lot of people.
But
I
then there's the
I
the
met some great
shift
people though.
ends.
I met some great people though that really helped me out, and it was wonderful. And I still talk to them to this day. But majority, it wasn't easy going through all of that, but it makes you stronger, and it makes you a better chef. So
Great practice for going for acting, I would imagine, getting into Hollywood.
oh yeah,
Breaking into Hollywood. Now, but here's the thing
managing,
too.
yeah, it's like, it's if you can handle the kitchen and that kind of crazy environment. I mean,
Those
you've
type of
seen the
people.
bear. You've seen the bear, I assume, right?
Yeah,
That
in fact, I'm actually going to play a couple clips from the bear in this interview where there's this great one of the great episodes where I forget the guy's name. Richie goes and works at this really high end. He's only served fast food basically at the Bear, and then he goes and works at this high end restaurant. And they talk about silverware and the reasons why it's so important to love what you do in the restaurant business. Yes, to answer your question, I'm going to play that clip because I think it applies to this conversation nicely.
awesome.
It'll give people an insight into your life, your world that you've had. But then at the end of the night, and I'm sure you've had these experiences as a chef, all the cooks go out back and the dishwashers out in the back. It's cold and all the trash is piled up, and they sit on milk crates that smell like stale milk. Everybody
Absolutely.
and they crack a beer or they sit around and it's a family all of a sudden. Now they've gone through this thing together, these 6 hours of intense battle to feed all these hundreds of guests, and then they go out and it's just that night air. Have you had those experiences where you're out back in the alleyway after with your staff?
Absolutely. It was when you have a successful dinner service and it really went well, and you made a lot of people happy, and nothing came back, and your team like pretty much connected, and you guys are sitting out back at the end of the night, and smoking cigarettes, and when people are drinking beer, and you are a family at the end of the night, and it honestly depends on the situation and what kitchen you work. I work in some places where that family thing kind of flew out the window in 5 minutes, and I was like, whatever. But when you find a kitchen family, it's a magical thing, man, because you guys are working together, you guys have each other's back, you guys know each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses, you guys communicate really well. It's when it's very hard to find a good oiled machine like the kitchen brigade system where the people are just solid. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
when solid and you guys are out back, yeah, you guys can say some horrendous stuff during service. I've heard, kitchen language is kitchen language, but at the end of the night, you know, it's a different story. But like I said, it depends on the situation. It
Yeah.
depends on the kitchen. It
Like
depends on,
everything in life,
yeah, it
right?
depends on
Depends
who
on
you're working.
what you
Yeah,
make it.
but yes, I've had those wonderful nights when you're standing outside the restaurant and the moon is bright and the wind is going upon your neck and you're just feeling so elated that you just did a
Yeah.
kick-ass service. It's the best feeling.
Nothing like that, is there?
The best feeling. You just made a lot of people happy. You busted your ass for it, and you're proud to get up in the morning and do it again. It's one of the best feelings in the world.
Nikita,
But
what are some of the fundamentals? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go.
I was just going to ask you, finish your thought.
Um,
But
but at the end of the day, you could have a completely not so good service where you're backed up. People don't show up for work. Things are just coming back for no reason or for a certain reason. It's just it could go either way. But when things go bad in the kitchen, you assess at the end of the night, you're like, okay, why did it happen? How are we not, how are we gonna prevent this from happening again? So it could either go really well or really not so well. So, you know, in both scenarios, you take things, you take things from both scenarios and you grow. And, and as a chef, you're always learning. You're always learning how to make it better, how to make it faster, and in some ways, how to make it cost effective. So you can keep your doors open. Because at the end of the day, it's a business. You know what I mean? It's, you're not just cooking food for fun. I mean,
It's a tough business.
that's great, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and you have to understand, like, what's your food cost, how much is coming in, how much is going out. So it's it's a balance of everything. So it takes a special person to really make it all happen. So it's anyway.
Nikita, we got to take a break here. Really, really good conversation. I could talk to you about this all day. Your experiences. What have you taken, though? Last question before break. What have you taken from these experiences, from your training as a chef, what you've learned in many hours on the lines in the hot kitchen? What do you take? What lessons have you taken or borrowed that you use in your everyday life now that help you?
That's a really good question, Jeremiah. I what I take away from the kitchen is that that if you make it and you push it just a little bit further and you give it the little extra effort, right? And you remember how you did it in the kitchen under all that pressure, under all those tickets, under all of that mayhem. You remember that you got through that, right? And you remember how you felt during that scenario, which you do it over and over and over and over and over and over again in one night, 2 nights, 3 nights before you know it, you're living in the restaurant.
Comes muscle memory.
And my point being is that you understand that you are capable of getting through very strenuous situations. So when there's something stressful in life right now, I think back to all of those times and I'm like, Nikita, if you can get through that, you can get through this. So it reminds me that I'm pretty resilient and I have a great work ethic. And I'm really proud to say that. And I don't say that often. And that is what I can take away from the kitchen. And I can also add what else I took away from the kitchen is remembering that it's not going to always be what they're not going to remember always, like what they ate or what they drank, but they're going to always remember how you made them feel. And the feeling that you gave your customers and how you made them happy, and they're going to remember that. That's the most important thing. And I take that into other art forms when I'm playing the drums, the feeling,
Yeah.
It's the feeling. Okay.
It all helps, right? Every little thing we do in life, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes we're like, why am I here? Why am I going through this? Why am I being tested this way? But it all comes together eventually, and it's there. It's like a arrow in your quill, right? You like, I got this. I can handle this. I can do this. Nikita Privalov. He's my special guest today, an actor, a chef, professional chef, and a drummer. He is in the music industry. Fascinating conversation, Nikita, and really, I'm getting a better picture of what makes you and what drives you, because you're a very driven person. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to talk about your acting and a little bit more about cooking, Hollywood, music, all that great stuff that you're living right now, my friend. We will be right back. Nikita Privalov, and you can find him on Instagram. I'm going to spell it for you here, okay? On Instagram, NIKITA Privalov, Privalov official. That's on Instagram. At X, Bring the Thought is his handle. And on Facebook, nikita.privalov.75. So it's again, NIKITA.PRIVALOV. Follow him now. We'll be right back with more with Nikita Privalov.